Hi families. This is very much a trial and error time in trying to figure out the best way to get communication out, get lessons out, and get you some quality instruction for your learners. So I'm doing my best to sort of navigate all of this. My thought I have right now is that I'll focus on a specific learning target each day, include some online lessons that can go with that, some printables, and just record a quick video explaining the target. So today we're going to focus on, I'm still trying to figure out all this. I'm having to do it from my phone because I couldn't figure out how to get it up on my computer. I promise I'll get better as I go. But so here's our learning target for today. I've written it down here. I'm pretending like it's my classroom board, but it's compare a written text to an audio or visual performance of the text and discuss similarities and differences. This is RL 4.7, sorry, is our learning target I'm going to focus on today. This isn't something I had a chance to cover this school year yet, so I thought it would be a good one. And there's a lot of resources you can do at home that are kind of fun during this time. So the point of this learning target is to compare a book to a different type of rendition of that book, a play, a movie, somebody orally telling the story, different ways to portray the same story. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to read an excerpt from the book Charlotte's Web. I left my hard copy at my classroom, so I've printed out the excerpt I want to read. And then I found a children's play of the same portion of the book. So my hope is that you'll go on into Google Classroom, watch the play. I've also included a printable Venn diagram. So you can see Venn diagram. This is you have one side is the book, going to be the book. The other side is going to be the play or the movie. These are this section is what is only in the book. This section is what's only in the play. And right here where the two circles overlap, that's what they have in common. So that's where we're going to compare the similarities and differences in these ways to portray literature. So that's my little whiteboard on it. So now I'm going to read to you the portion of the book that I selected that's in the play. If you are not familiar with Charlotte's Web, it's a story about a pig on a farm who befriends a spider who helps him because he's going to get killed potentially. So this is the part of the book where the spider first starts helping the pig. His name's Wilbur. And this is also the section that is portrayed in the play. It's just a 3-minute clip of the play, so it's really quick to watch. So I'm going to quickly read it to you. All right. The next day was foggy. Everything on the farm was dripping wet. The grass looked like a magic carpet. The asparagus patch looked like a silver forest. On foggy mornings, Charlotte's Web was truly a thing of beauty. This morning, each thin strand was decorated with dozens of tiny beads of water. The web glistened in the light and made a pattern of loveliness and mystery, like a delicate veil. Even Lurvy, who wasn't particularly interested in beauty, noticed the web when he came with the pig's breakfast. He noted how clearly it showed up, and he noted how big and carefully built it was. And then he took another look, and he saw something that made him set his pail down. There, in the center of the web, neatly woven in block letters, was a message. It said, "Some pig." Lurvy felt weak. He brushed his hand across his eyes and stared harder at Charlotte's Web. "I'm seeing things," he whispered. He dropped to his knees and uttered a short prayer. Then, forgetting all about Wilbur's breakfast, he walked back to the house and called Mr. Zuckerman. "I think you'd better come down to the pig pen," he said. "What's the trouble?" asked Mr. Zuckerman. "Anything wrong with the pig?" Not exactly," said Lurvy. "Come and see for yourself." The two men walked silently down to Wilbur's yard. Lurvy pointed to the spider's web. "Do you see what I see?" he asked. Zuckerman stared at the writing on the web. Then he murmured the words, "Some pig." Then he looked at Lurvy. Then they both began to tremble. Charlotte, sleepy after her night's exertion, smiled as she watched. Wilbur came and stood directly under the web. "Some pig," muttered Lurvy in a low voice. "Some pig," whispered Mr. Zuckerman. They stared and stared for a long time at Wilbur. Then they stared at Charlotte. "You don't suppose that the spider—" began Mr. Zuckerman, but he shook his head and didn't finish the sentence. Instead, he walked solemnly back up to the house and spoke to his wife. "Edith, something has happened," he said. He went into the living room and sat down, and Mrs. Zuckerman followed. "I've got something to tell you, Edith," he said. "You'd better sit down." Mrs. Zuckerman sank into a chair. She looked pale and frightened. "Edith," he said, trying to keep his voice steady, "I think you had best be told we have a very unusual pig." A look of complete bewilderment came over Mrs. Zuckerman's face. "Homer Zuckerman, what in the world are you talking about?" she said. "This is a very serious thing, Edith," he replied. "Our pig is completely out of the ordinary." "What's unusual about the pig?" asked Mrs. Zuckerman, who was beginning to recover from her scare. "Well, I don't really know yet," said Mr. Zuckerman. "But we have received a sign, Edith, a mysterious sign. A miracle has happened on this farm. There is a large spider's web in the doorway of the barn, right over the pig pen. And when Lurvy went to feed the pig this morning, he noticed the web because it was foggy. And you know how a spider's web looks very distinct in a fog? And right spring in the middle of the web, there were the words, 'Some pig.' The words were woven right into the web. They were actually part of the web. I know because I have been down there and I have seen them. It says, 'Some pig,' just as clear can be. There can be no mistake about it. A miracle has happened and a sign has occurred here on earth, right over our farm, and we have no ordinary pig." "Well," said Mrs. Zuckerman, "it seems to me you're a little off. It seems to me we have no ordinary spider." All right, so I'm going to stop right there, but that is the part of the story that is in the play that you'll watch in Google Classroom. I've also included in Google Classroom a vocabulary assignment. The vocabulary assignment is discussing plays and what makes them different from written words and stories, and what makes them unique and how to follow a play. I've also included a list of books that have been made into movies. And so the assignment I would like you to complete, if you have access to any of these books or movies, is to read one of the stories and then watch a movie. And then you can use the Venn diagram that you use for comparing what I just read to the play that I've put in to Google Classroom. You can compare the movie to the book you read, or you can discuss it with your family. Some examples are Alexander and the Terrible No Good Very Bad Day, Captain Underpants, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Harry Potter. There are so many that you can find, and I've included a list that would be a good resource for you for that. Again, I hope that you're all staying healthy and safe. I've never missed my classroom so much and seeing your learners, and I hope that you are all doing well. And if any of my learners want to give me a shout out and say hi, I would love it, and I'll always write back. Do your best, stay safe, stay healthy, and reach out to me with anything you need. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.